What's up, boys? Happy Friday, TGIF. Welcome to eppy 4 of the COVID series, or the season, whatever. I thought I'd throw this episode a little bit early today because some of you guys might be planning something special at night, or like a movie night or family night or whatever it is. So I wanted to try to get some of these off a little bit earlier. So this is my special edition eppy number 4 coming at you Friday, so you can it help with your commute or whatever you need to do. So today's episode, gonna get into some really good stuff with the 4 major sports, and maybe some COVID marketing opportunities, because you always have to look at the big picture. And for me, being in the industry that I am, you always have to kind of think forward. You have to think ahead, whether it's menu development or how to get people in or how people are consuming food. All those kind of things tie into sport. They tie into cultural and again, tendencies. So coming out of this COVID thing, a month or 2 months from now, the world's going to look a lot different, and nobody really knows. But you want to be very cognizant and aware of what things are, whether you're a sports league or you're a small business or even a large business. You're going to want to know how people are going to consume after this, because it's 10 days to make a habit, 10 days to break a habit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, specifically in sports. And I want to get into the NHL. We'll start with the NHL first. So the NHL, of the 4 major sports, obviously one of the sports that maybe gets the 4th tier in terms of North America, especially in the States. And right now they're struggling to stay relevant because of the MLB season that's going to happen shortly, the NFL free agency, and then the NBA, which I'll get into the NBA. So for the NHL to stay relevant, there's a couple things that they could probably do. If you didn't notice already yesterday, Toronto Maple Leafs forward Zach Hyman, the empty net specialist, he posted something online saying he wanted to play video games. He wanted to play a bunch of games. DM him. He would select a couple people, and he'd play video games all day to help support the staying at home and social distancing thing. And that got me thinking to what the NHL could really do here. And so for me, the NHL needs to align with its video game sponsorships, EA Sports, and some of the other ones. And I think a really cool thing that the NHL could do would be to take 5 players, because a lot of teams have younger players now. The league is a lot younger than it was 10 years ago. Take 5 players off of all your teams. There's got to be at least 5 players that are pretty good gamers, especially in the NHL game. They would play them. They would play the game as themselves, and they could have some kind of tournament, and they could take this tournament, put it online. They would be reaching out to that younger generation, so the Gen Zers, the millennials, and I think there's a huge opportunity there. You could even go as far as if you didn't want to post, if you were posting online, you could even go as far as carving out a time where people could watch this. A lot of gamers tend to be either early afternoon or late at night. So potentially doing an early afternoon filler for some of these sports networks, you could do something along the lines of having these guys set up their webcam, and they can do some chirps to each other while they're playing the game, and then send it all in, and then they get it all edited. And I think it would be a really great opportunity for the NHL to stay relevant to its fans, to its younger fans, which is going to be a recurring theme here for me in this segment, because as much as the older demographic is important, we need to understand that coming out of this, it's the older demographic that's going to have to adjust to the new way of life, as opposed to the younger demographic adjusting to the old way of life, because the old way of life is gone, and we're going to be seeing that in the near future. So that's just one thing. The other thing that the NHL could do, they could put a little bit of sponsorship dollars towards Barstool Sports, and I know that's a touchy subject for a lot of people because of what Barstool stands for, but more specifically into Spit and Chicklets podcast. Now, Spit and Chicklets has become a huge hockey vehicle for guys. They feel comfortable talking on there, and everybody in the hockey world listens to them. Currently, they have 2 episodes a week. On Mondays and Thursdays, but with the potential opportunity here to really expand, they could almost have a Spit and Chicklets NHL podcast, meaning a third episode that would be sponsored, and they wouldn't necessarily, I'm not saying censor out the swearing and all that kind of stuff, but what I'm saying is give them an opportunity to do more in terms of interviews. So that's one of their parts. It's actually the most favorite part of Spit and Chicklets that I have. I don't need to listen to RA talk about movies or even Biz and Wit talk about the NHL because, they are foreign players. They got great experience and stuff. I don't need their analysis because I can analyze it myself. I know the game just as well as anybody when it comes to what I see and what is analyzed there for those guys. Those guys aren't management. They were just players, and as a player you see things differently, but I was lucky enough to have some coaches in junior who were pro coaches. So we had pro practices. We prepared games like a pro team would prepare. So you really I saw a difference even going from a junior team that didn't have a pro coach to one that did. You really do see a big difference there. So I don't need their analysis, but I do need more of those interviews. Those interviews are great, and the opportunity for them to really, get some more marketing dollars. They could really, and they could do a third episode. 3 wouldn't tax them too much, because essentially they'd just be banging out a couple phone calls for interviews. So I think those are a couple things for the NHL. In the NFL, obviously the craze with the NFL is the free agency. Lots of things going on. A couple notable guys that are kind of big names that didn't get signed, who will get signed. Yesterday, Todd Gurley was cut by the LA Rams. He's had some monster years over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Last year wasn't one of his better ones. He had just under 900 yards rushing. He had some injuries, and they were trying to change their offensive game a little bit to make it a little less predictable. So I know the LA Rams were trying to trade him so that he could get his $10.5 million bonus, but like a lot of times in UFA and hockey or other sports, a team isn't going to trade for a guy when they can get him for free. If they feel like they have a program that is attractive, they could probably bring him in. And running backs are kind of, a 3 to 4 year thing. There's very few that can extend beyond that. And I think teams are a little weary knowing that he had such a heavy contract that they could probably still get Todd Gurley even without the contract at a lesser, because they're going to have the leverage now that he doesn't, and he'll have to take something. So that's one to consider where he might go. The other one, Cam Newton, obviously he didn't request a trade, but he's going to be traded. He won't be traded actually, but he won't be with the Carolina Panthers. He's a guy that I think will be released either today or tomorrow, and then he has his pick. And here's a guy that really needs to think about how he's going to approach the back half of his career. He's had a tremendous front half, but it's been hard. It's a grind the way he's played. He's really banged up. He's just a monster. He's a 6'5", 250-pound quarterback who can move and throw. He's a tremendous player, but if he doesn't change his style, or if he doesn't join a team that gives him more offensive line protection, the guy's going to be out of the league in 2 or 3 years, because your body just breaks down. And he's taken so many hard hits over the years, and I just hope that he finds a spot where he can settle in and do something there. So expect him to be released, and then he'll find a home. He'll find a home, and he'll do fine. He might end up taking a bit of a haircut when it comes to contract, but there's always teams that are looking for guys like him. He's unbelievable. When it comes to the COVID situation coming out, the NFL is going to be not holding live the NFL draft in Las Vegas. So they're going to be going online, and one of the biggest things about the NFL draft is after the first round, the second, third, fourth round, they always bring somebody up who has an affiliation with the franchise, whether it's someone who is battling cancer, a fan, an alumni, or even a celebrity. So the opportunities there are huge for people to be able to make announcements. They're going to be very, very relevant when it comes to those second, third, and fourth round picks. And you really, they're going to have some celebrities. They're going to make some comments. They're going to have some great social media coverage. The NFL Network will be doing a great job with it. So I think they're preparing that right now, and it'll be exciting and it'll be cool. And nobody does it better than the NFL. They just do it so well. So that's the big thing there. In MLB, so the MLB coming into the Red Sox. So the Red Sox announced yesterday Chris Sale, a tremendous pitcher, long, rangy, unbelievable fastball. The Red Sox announced that he will be undergoing Tommy John surgery. Undergoing Tommy John surgery. That's a tongue twister. So what does that mean for Chris Sale? Well, Chris Sale is on the shelf. He's on the shelf. Longtime pitcher. He's had a tremendous career so far. Usually Tommy John surgery takes 14 to 15 months. I mean, it's going to be a while. So don't expect to see him till, next year around July, mid-July, maybe even after the break. So tough blow for the Red Sox, especially considering that they traded David Price to the LA Dodgers. So now they're down two guys, even though Price wasn't, he didn't have a great season last year and even the season before. But when you lose a big guy like that, you look for experience, and they traded away David Price. So with the fact that they traded those two guys away, and Mookie Betts is now a Dodger as well, do you look at the Red Sox as maybe a team that's taken a bit of a pause and trying to, restock the shelves? The Yankees would certainly be in the driver's seat for that division, and the Rays just do such a great job with developing. Is this an opportunity now for the Jays to kind of maybe step up and potentially look at that number 2 spot in the AL East, maybe compete for a wild card? That's very interesting when it comes to when the MLB begins. And speaking of MLB and when it is going to begin, the Major League Baseball is looking at potentially entertaining doubleheaders. Now, we do get doubleheaders. We've had doubleheaders for years and years and years, but they don't happen very often. It's usually because of multiple day rainouts in fields where there's no closed stadium or whatever. So we've seen them in the past, and they get very interesting, especially down near the end of the season when the season's out and they call people up. And for the guys that bet sports, it's a wild time, the doubleheader. But when it comes to the ramifications of the outlook after COVID and doubleheaders and how that might impact the MLB experience, that's a big thing, because doubleheaders themselves are going to change the way, and maybe even force and expedite the way MLB produces their games, the way they do it for their fans. And what I mean by that is it's going to force teams, it's going to force the league to look at how can we make the game even shorter. And it's been ongoing for a long time, but how do we make the game more fluid? Because today's generation, their attention spans are so short. So the COVID thing is that might actually really help MLB in the fact that they won't really lose much of their season, might have to force these doubleheaders, which in turn, the byproduct that might have to have them look at how they can shorten their games. And the other part about shortening the games is, and having these doubleheaders, is if you're looking to get gates, so if you're looking to increase your gate revenue with a doubleheader, you're more than likely not going to get a a whole stadium and then a whole stadium. So maybe they look at, you buy one ticket, you get the second one 50% off kind of thing. And so now what you're doing is you're saying, okay, come to the ballpark with your family or your buddies or whatever. And now you're not committing 2 or 3 hours. Now you're committing, or 4 hours. Now you're committing 6, 7 hours potentially. So the other byproduct of the COVID for MLB is the entertainment factor. What is it? You can't possibly sit in a bleacher seat for 6 hours and watch a game and just watch a game. I mean, that just doesn't happen in today's society. So it's also going to force teams to look at, okay, what does that experience look like? Are we putting in facilities where we have spaces for families, where they have playgrounds where the parents can watch, and it's attached to a restaurant and the kids can play for 4 or 5 hours? Are we putting really cool bars? Are we adding more opportunity for potential small water parks in the parks? I mean, outside of having the playoffs and you're jamming your stadiums, you've got 90% of your season where you don't have a lot of, there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that fill their ballpark. You need to have spaces where people can actually do things, where sometimes the game isn't necessarily the focal point. It's the background. And I think that's what this COVID thing is going to really change in terms of the MLB experience. It needs to happen because 4 hours is too much to watch a game, and you can't possibly put people in stands and have them drink for 6 hours. People will just be blitzed. Let me tell you, if the MLB ever had Pink Whitney in there, it'd be 2 innings and I'd be done. So you really, really need to look at what the overall experience is. So I think that's a positive coming out for the Major League Baseball. When it comes to the NBA, well, the NBA, first of all, has to get guys washing their hands. I mean, granted, I know that they have giant hands. They have giant fucking hands, and it might take a whole bottle of sanitizer just to do like one rub. But guys are going down like flies. We got 2 Lakers going down. We got Marcus Smart from the Celtics. Guys got to wash their fucking hands. Like the NBA has more reported cases than anybody. And it's not to say the NFL won't, or MLB won't, or even the NHL, which, by the way, it's reported that Nikita Zaitsev is the Ottawa Senator with the COVID. But wash your hands, boys. You're touching the ball. You're sharing the ball. Fuck. They got to wash their hands. But just getting back to there's reports that Ice Cube, who owns the Big Three League, which kind of tours around in the summertime, summer ball league with ex-NBAers and stuff like that, they might be entertaining the thought of having some current players, we're talking 20 to 22 COVID negative players, quarantined in a house, and it would be like Big Three meets Big Brother. And the thought is absolutely brilliant, and obviously they would do it in LA, and I think it's great. It kind of piggybacks off what I thought about the charity game. It's actually a better idea than the charity game. And having them quarantine for like 3 weeks, do a shoot, they all get paid, blah blah blah. Not great money, but the TV networks would jump in on it. The only problem with that is the NBA is highly likely to allow them to do that, especially under contract. So where I see it happening and where I see it not happening is it won't be with NBA players. The NBA would never allow that to happen. There's too much risk involved with getting hurt playing games, even if it's not like super competitive. It'll still get competitive. What they need to do is they need to continue. The Big Three needs to do is they need to reach out to guys that are just recent retirees that are still got games, still good. Some of the best chirpers, all that kind of stuff. Like, guys like not Kevin Durant, but guys that like Kevin Garnett or The Truth, or Allen Iverson's probably looking for some money right now because he's been broke for years because he just spent it all on shit and all that stuff. So there's a lot of guys that still got a lot of skill and a lot of talent. Maybe you reach out to a guy that is probably retired at this point and reach out to Vince Carter. he might be a guy that would bring some credibility, because people want to see him finish off this incredible run. And just getting back into Vince Carter. Vince Carter has not played his last game. Vince Carter will sign a 1-day or a 1-month contract with the Toronto Raptors next year. I'm very confident of it. He will hit the floor for a 3-throw. Like he'll hit the floor, and there'll be something along the lines of like an intentional foul, and he will get his 2 free throws, and he will be done. And it'll be a tremendous thing. It'll be good for the league. It'll be good for the Toronto Raptors. There'll be some closure there. I think that is something that would be incredible to watch, and don't be surprised if you see something along those lines. To be with the Raptors, that would be a huge part, because I know the fans still love him, even though there was some hard feelings. I think time heals all wounds, as they say. So that's where that is there. And then the only other sport I want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit about the CFL. And specifically when it comes to Commissioner Randy Ambrosie, their season's supposed to start on June 11th. And so with every week here, we're getting pushed back. And so they're probably going to lay into something like July, I would imagine, which they used to have a while back. But Randy Ambrosie has a really, really tough task. And the reason for that in the CFL is the last couple of years, they've done a great job with marketing a small pro league. And they've got the marketing dollars from TSN. But this summer is going to be real tough for them, because they could potentially be going up the eyeballs, which is the money. The money is the eyeballs, right, when it comes to TV sports marketing. They're going to be potentially going up against the NBA. They'll potentially be going up against the Olympics, which I don't think are going to happen, but it could still happen. They'll be going up against potentially the NHL playoffs, and a host of other events that were pushed back and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention concerts that'll be happening again, and people, like if everything gets settled into the summer, people are going to have one hell of a busy summer. So very interesting to see what's going to happen there. It's going to be hard for them, though. It's going to be hard for their ratings. Their ratings are going to take a dip, because there's just so much for people to consume and watch, and they're going to take their first choice and their second choice, and unfortunately for the CFL, it's always been down the list. It's always been third or fourth. The reason why they've had so much success is because they've carved out a small part of their season where they could be the first or second choice for eyeballs, because there's not a lot going on aside from baseball, but they're just going to get lost in the shuffle. And it leads to my point that I've been a proponent, and it's probably now it's going to be pushed back 2 seasons, because every league is going to be pushed back until we get back to normal. It's really going to be 2 seasons from now. But I've been a big proponent for the CFL, and what they need to do is they need to push their season back and begin it sooner. And the reason for that is to eliminate as much overlap with the NFL season as possible. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is currently right now they're going to start their season in a perfect world June 11th. What the CFL needs to do is they need to push it back so that they begin on May 2-4 weekend. May 2-4 weekend is a great weekend. It's a recognized Canadian weekend, and you can start your CFL season then. So by pushing it back 3 to 4 weeks, what that means is the current Grey Cup, which is in third week of November, now gets pushed back to something along the lines of end of October. So now you're eliminating the overlap with the start of the NBA season, or at least a month of the NBA season. You're eliminating the overlap of 4 to 5 weeks of the NFL season, which right now the Grey Cup lands right in that American Thanksgiving as well. And you're also eliminating 4 weeks of the NCAA football season, which is again football eyeballs. And on top of that, when you're pushing it back, you're going into a gap that you're really not competing against a ton of eyeballs. With the NHL, May 2-4 weekend, you're really only down to 4 teams. So a lot of eyeballs are looking for that. The NBA, same thing. So a lot of fans, most fans, their teams are already out, so they're looking in the Canadian markets. So they're looking for that, if there's any crossover there. And there's the potential to increase your TV revenue, specifically with an American sports league. And so there's still a lot of players that were stars in the NCAA that play in the CFL. And there's a gap there between the end of the NFL season and the start of the NFL season. The XFL, who recognized that, had begun, and unfortunately because of this COVID thing, I think their league is going to be dead. I just don't think there's going to be any traction. They'll try to get it off running again, but it's not going to happen. This is the opportunity for the CFL to really think about pushing it back 3-4 weeks. Maybe not next season, but the season after, when they bring in an Atlantic team as well. So, you're bringing in more gate revenue with an Atlantic team, potentially looking at re-upping with an ESPN or an ESPN2 deal for the States. And you've already got the infrastructure for the league. It's a healthy league, and you could really, really increase that so that the players, and make this league a better league. It's a great league already. It's a different league. I'm a four down fan guy, but I understand the 3 downs, and I understand all that. I wish they could almost move to 4 downs, but there's a lot of pushback there, and the bigger ball and all that kind of stuff. So just some food for thought with the CFL as well. So those are all the sports I got. You guys have a great day. An extended version, episode number 4 of the COVID series today. TGIF, happy Friday. Keep your, I've got the COVID series playlist going right now. Keep sending in your music. I'm adding it to the list. Grab a drink tonight, take a picture and send it to me, and we'll cheers. We'll do a little cyber cheers tonight. I'll probably grab a Pink Whitney. Gonna jump on the treadmill right now and get some kilometers off, because the reality is I gotta fucking get in shape here. I gotta get in shape, because if I go back to work in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and that first day I put the old dress pants on and they don't fit, I'm in fucking trouble. So that's what's gonna keep me motivated, is trying to stay in my suits. So have a good one, boys. Enjoy everything. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Team Canada. Raptors tonight. TSN and Sportsnet begin their coverage. And let's just enjoy the weekend for what it is. Cheers.